The coffee shop hummed with the soft murmur of conversations and the rhythmic hiss of the espresso machine. Emily Carter stared into her lat, her fingers tracing absent patterns on the ceramic mug. Something was different today. Something was off. She'd been experiencing these moments more frequently lately. Brief flashes of déjà vu that left her dizzy and disoriented. Fragments of memories that didn't quite fit, like pieces of a puzzle from a different box. At 22, Emily prided herself on being rational, pragmatic. A junior at State University studying environmental science, she was the epitome of an average college student. Brown hair always pulled back in a practical ponytail, wire-rimmed glasses perched on her nose, dressed in practical layers of earth-toned clothing. But lately, those rational edges were fraying. The dreams had started 3 months ago. Not nightmares, exactly, but something more insidious. Sterile white rooms, masked faces, the cold touch of metal against her scalp, whispers just beyond comprehension. Each morning, she would wake with a sense of profound unease, her sheets damp with sweat, fragments of these dreams dissolving like mist. Today was different. As she stirred her lat, the spoon slipped from her fingers, but before it could clatter against the ceramic, she knew, absolutely knew, it would fall. Her hand moved, almost unconsciously, to catch it mere millimeters from the table's surface. Time seemed to stretch and compress. "Hey, you okay?" The voice jolted her back to reality. Marcus, her lab partner, was looking at her with concern. He'd been sitting across from her for the past 10 minutes, his textbooks spread across the table, but Emily realized she hadn't heard a word he'd been saying. "Fine," she muttered. Just distracted, but she wasn't fine. Not really. The memories were like water behind a cracking dam. Tiny fractures were beginning to appear, threatening to burst open and flood her consciousness with something she wasn't sure she wanted to remember. Later that evening, in her small studio apartment near campus, Emily stood before her bathroom mirror. Her reflection looked tired, the skin beneath her eyes shadowed. She splashed cold water on her face, trying to wash away the lingering sensation of something. A childhood memory flickered at the edges of her consciousness. A testing room. Bright lights. A man in a white coat making notes on a clipboard. "Fascinating," he had said. But to whom? About what? Her fingers trembled slightly as she gripped the edge of the sink. The first clear memory hit her like a physical blow. Electrodes, tiny, cold sensors attached to her scalp. She was 8, maybe 9 years old. Not in a hospital. Not in a school. Somewhere else. Somewhere clinical and sterile. Voices around her. Adult voices. Discussing her as if she were an experiment, not a child. Subject shows remarkable cognitive resonance. Percentile rankings are off the charts. We've never seen potential like this before. Emily gripped the sink harder, her knuckles turning white. The memory was so vivid, so real, that for a moment she could smell the antiseptic, feel the hard plastic chair beneath her small body. A phrase emerged from the memory, crystal clear: "You were chosen." As she stumbled backward, her body suddenly cold despite the warm apartment. Chosen? For what? By whom? The memories had always been there, she realized, buried, waiting, like seeds beneath winter ground, just waiting for the right moment to sprout. Her childhood hadn't been normal. The gifted programs, the special tests, the way adults who would watch her with a mixture of fascination and something else. Something she couldn't quite name. Emily reached for her phone, her hand shaking. She needed to ground herself in the present, needed to remind herself that she was okay, that these were just memories, fragments, nothing more. But even as she thought it, she knew it wasn't true. Something had happened to her, something significant, something that had shaped her in ways she was only now beginning to understand. The phone buzzed in her hand, an unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Emily Carter. The voice was neutral, professional, neither male nor female, just precise. "Who is this?" she asked, her mouth suddenly dry. "You know who this is," the voice responded. "We've been waiting for this moment. For you to remember." The line went dead. Outside her apartment window, a black sedan with tinted windows pulled slowly to the curb. Emily Carter's ordinary life was about to change forever. The knock came precisely at 8 a.m. Emily had barely slept, her mind still reeling from the fragmented memories and the cryptic phone call. When she opened the door, two figures stood before her, a man and a woman, both dressed in impeccable dark suits that screamed government agency. "Miss Carter," the woman said, her voice crisp and professional. "I'm Agent Roberts. This is Agent Michaels. We need to talk." They didn't request. They simply expected to be invited inside, and somehow Emily knew she would comply. The agents moved with practiced precision, scanning her small apartment with eyes that missed nothing. Agent Roberts, mid-40s, auburn hair pulled into a tight bun, piercing green eyes, sat on the edge of Emily's worn leather armchair as if it were a conference room chair. Agent Michaels remained standing, a silent sentinel near the window. "You remember now," Agent Roberts stated. It wasn't a question. Emily's throat felt dry. "Remember what?" A slight smile crossed Agent Roberts' face. "Not warm knowing. The GATE program. Emily, your childhood, the tests, the experiments." The word experiments hung in the air like a physical presence. "I don't know what you're talking about," Emily said, but her voice lacked conviction. Her fingers betrayed her, trembling slightly against her leg. Agent Michaels spoke for the first time. His voice was deep, measured. "We've been monitoring you since the memories started resurfacing. Your cognitive patterns, your brain activity, your recent behavioral changes, everything." Emily felt a chill run down her spine. "You've been watching me. We've been protecting you," Agent Roberts corrected. The next hour was a masterclass in controlled revelation. They explained fragments of what she already suspected. A secret government program during the 1980s and early 1990s that identified children with extraordinary cognitive abilities. "Children like her. You were part of something extraordinary," Agent Roberts said. "Remote viewing. Precognitive potential. Cognitive enhancement beyond anything the scientific community understood at the time." But Emily's mind reeled. Remote viewing. Precognition. The words sounded like something from a science fiction novel, not her life. "Not everyone in the program was successful," Agent Michaels added. "But you were different." They showed her files. Classified documents with her name. Documents that should not exist. Psychological evaluations from when she was 8 years old. Test results that showed abilities far beyond normal childhood development. Thermal imaging of her brain during controlled experiments. Graphs showing neural response times that were literally off the standard charts. Notations about her ability to predict outcomes with uncanny accuracy. "Why me?" Emily asked, her voice barely a whisper. Agent Roberts leaned forward. "Because you were chosen. Because you have a potential that most humans can't even comprehend." But the offer came then. Simple. "Durandras. Join us," Agent said, "will become a liability." The subtext was clear. Cooperation meant protection. Resistance meant something else entirely. They explained the current landscape. The GATE program hadn't truly ended. It had gone underground, transformed, evolved. And now, with global tensions rising and technological warfare becoming increasingly complex, individuals with Emily's abilities were more valuable than ever. "There are factions within our intelligence community," Agent Michaels explained. "Some want to develop these abilities. Others want to ensure they never see the light of day." Emily understood the implication. Some wanted to use her, others wanted to erase her. "And which faction are you with?" she asked. Neither agent answered, which was of course an answer in itself. The next weeks became a blur of testing, training, and revelation. Emily learned about the hidden world that had been watching her entire life. She discovered that her childhood, gifted programs were merely a cover for something far more complex. They introduced her to others like her, survivors of the GATE program. Some had been completely broken by their experiences. Others had learned to harness their strange abilities in ways that defied traditional understanding. During one training session, Emily discovered she could do more than just see things. She could sense them. Intuitions, fragments of potential futures that flickered like heat mirages. Your brain processes information differently. Dr. Lina Rodriguez, a neurologist specializing in cognitive anomalies, explained during one evaluation. You don't just perceive, you integrate, predict, transform. The Russian connection emerged gradually. Whispers of a parallel program on the other side of the former Iron Curtain. Psychic operatives trained not just for intelligence gathering, but for warfare, assassination, manipulation. One night, during a controlled remote viewing exercise, Emily saw something that made her blood run cold. A sealed vault. Russian intelligence. Classified beyond top secret, and within those sealed records, something that suggested the Gate program was just the tip of a much larger, more terrifying iceberg. What am I really a part of? She asked Agent Roberts during a rare moment of vulnerability. The agent's response was cryptic. Something bigger than you can imagine. Something that could change everything we understand about human potential. But Emily realized she was no longer just a college student. She was a weapon. A resource. A potential game changer in a shadow war that most of the world would never know existed. And she was just beginning to understand her own power. The choice, they made clear, was hers. But it wasn't really a choice at all. Stay and be protected, controlled, utilized, or disappear, and face consequences she couldn't yet comprehend. Outside her window, the world continued its ordinary rhythm. Students walked to class, cars drove by, normal life proceeded. But for Emily Carter, nothing would ever be normal again. The classified facility was buried deep beneath the Virginian countryside, a labyrinth of sterile corridors and reinforced concrete. Emily had spent the past 3 weeks training, testing, pushing the boundaries of her newly acknowledged abilities. But today was different. Today, she would unlock something that had been hidden, even from herself. Dart. Rodriguez stood behind the one-way glass, her dark eyes intense with a mixture of scientific curiosity and something else. Concern. Fear. Emily couldn't quite determine the precise emotion radiating from the neurologist. We're going to try something different. Agent Roberts had explained earlier. A deep memory retrieval session. Full cognitive immersion. The electrodes felt familiar. Too familiar. Memories of childhood flickered at the edges of her consciousness. Sterile rooms, masked faces, the cold precision of scientific exploration. Clear your mind, the technician instructed. His voice was neutral, professional. Another cog in this massive, secretive machine. Emily closed her eyes. The first fragment came quickly. A laboratory, bright lights, the smell of antiseptic and something metallic. Fear, perhaps. She was 8 years old, small, vulnerable. But even then, something inside her was different. Remarkable neural connectivity, a voice had said. Male, authoritative. Subject shows unprecedented synaptic response. Another memory surfaced, a test. Not an academic test, something more profound. They were measuring something beyond traditional intelligence. Her ability to perceive patterns, to predict, to sense what others could not. But beneath these memories something else stirred, something deeper. A Russian name emerged from the fog of memory. Nikolai Volkov, a scientist. Not American, not part of the original Gate program. Someone else, someone who existed in the shadows between intelligence agencies. Her eyes snapped open. I saw something, she said to Dr. Rodriguez. Something about the program, about why we were really selected. And the doctor's expression was carefully neutral. Tell me. The story unfolded in fragments. The Gate program wasn't just about identifying gifted children. It was about something far more complex. A global experiment in human potential. Conducted not just by the CIA, but by multiple international agencies. The Russians had their own program. So did the British, the Chinese. Each trying to unlock the same fundamental mystery. Could human consciousness be weaponized? Emily saw glimpses. Fractured memories of children like her, scattered across continents. All part of something larger. A grand, terrifying experiment in human evolution. Not everyone survived, she whispered. Dr. Rodriguez made a note. Her pen moved swiftly across the clipboard. The next memory hit like a physical blow. A sealed document. Classified beyond top secret. stamped with multiple intelligence agency markers. The title alone sent a chill through her. Project Prometheus Cognitive Frontier Exploration. She saw names, scientists, intelligence operatives, a network spanning decades. Their goal wasn't just intelligence gathering. It was something more profound. They were trying to understand and potentially control the next stage of human cognitive development. "What am I?" Emily asked, her voice trembling. Dr. Rodriguez's response was measured. "You're the result of decades of research, a culmination of multiple international efforts to understand human potential." But Emily sensed something more, something the doctor wasn't saying. The Russian connection became clearer. Nikolai Volkov had been part of a parallel program, not just studying psychic potential, but actively trying to weaponize it. Assassination, remote influence, cognitive manipulation, and somewhere in the vast network of global intelligence, someone had realized that children like Emily represented something more than just a potential resource. They were a threat. Some within the intelligence community want to develop these abilities. Agent Michaels had told her weeks earlier. Others want to ensure they never see the light of day. And now she understood the true meaning of those words. The memories continued to flood her consciousness. Training sessions designed to push her cognitive limits. Experiments that tested not just her intelligence, but her ability to perceive beyond traditional sensory input. She could see potential futures, not definitive outcomes, but probability streams, potential paths that humanity might take. And what she saw terrified her. Global conflicts, technological warfare, cognitive manipulation on a scale that would make traditional espionage look like child's play. "We're not just gathering intelligence," she realized. "We're trying to shape it." Dr. Rodriguez remained silent, but her silence spoke volumes. The final revelation came unexpectedly. A memory of a conversation. Hushed voices. Her 8-year-old self, listening without understanding. "The children are more than subjects," one voice had said. Male. Authoritative. "They're the key to something bigger. Bigger than national security," another voice responded. A pause then. "Bigger than humanity as we currently understand it." Emily's entire body trembled. She wasn't just part of a government program. She was part of something that transcended traditional human understanding. A weapon, a resource, or something else entirely. The line between scientific exploration and existential threat had become impossibly blurred. As the memory retrieval session concluded, Emily understood one fundamental truth. Her existence was no longer her own. She had been chosen, prepared, shaped for a purpose she was only beginning to comprehend. And the real test was just beginning. Outside the facility, the world continued its ordinary rhythm. Unaware that individuals like Emily represented a fundamental shift in human potential. A shift that could change everything. It takes a lot of time to create these videos. I would really appreciate your support. All I ask for is a quick like on the video and subscribe. Thank you so much.